Shifting focus now, a Russian intelligence gathering plane has been intercepted by the American Air Force in Alaska for the third time in less than a week. According to a press release by the North American Aerospace Defense Command, the Russian spy aircraft was detected and tracked in the Alaskan Air Defense Identification Zone. More alarming, it seems, is the frequency of such incidents. Earlier in the week itself, the U.S. military scrambled fighter jets to intercept a similar aircraft near Alaska, both on August 21 and 22. And how did America respond exactly? In both cases, reportedly, the command sent 2 F-16 Fighting Falcons, an E-3 Sentry airborne command plane, and 1 KC-135 refueler tanker to identify, intercept, and monitor the Russian aircraft in the Alaskan zone. Is this cause for concern? As per the North American Aerospace Defense Command, not currently, as the aircraft essentially remained in the international airspace without breaching American or Canadian airspace. And this is being viewed somewhat as a routine occurrence, with previous sightings reported in months of April and July this year. Similar incidents also flagged throughout last year after the U.S. military deployed about 130 service members to a remote location in the Alaskan islands. Having said that, it also added that it remains prepared for response as well as combat, with its rather layered defense mechanism, replete with radars and fighter jets to defend North America at all costs. What's noteworthy also is the timing of the latest sighting, which came just a week after U.S. President Donald Trump met the Russian president in Alaska to discuss the Russia-Ukraine war. Now, what exactly is this zone where these incursions usually take place? And how is it laid out? The Air Defense Identification Zone is a stretch of international airspace that requires aircraft to readily identify themselves for national security purposes. And as per the team, the latest detection in Alaska marks the 7th instance of Russian aircraft entering the strategic zone this year. Our top story on Gravitas tonight is about India pushing back against Trump's tariffs. But before we tell you more on that, let's just first listen in to what U.S. President Donald Trump had said to the Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi back in the month of February.
Oh, he's a much tougher negotiator than me, and he's a much better negotiator than me. There's not even a contest.
That was just a few months ago, but the memory seemed like a distant dream, thanks to what appears to be Washington's short-term thinking and knee-jerk imposition of hefty tariffs on India. Tariffs that will take effect Wednesday midnight. And as Donald Trump escalates that tariff war in the name of Russian oil purchases, India has made it clear that it will not bow down. In fact, Prime Minister Modi's message is clear: strengthen India by choosing Indian, and making it clear that there will be no compromise under pressure. Earlier today, in fact, speaking in Gujarat, Prime Minister Modi sent out a clear message on self-reliance. The Prime Minister said the future of India must rest on the sweat of its own citizens, regardless of whether the investment comes in dollars, pounds or rupees. Prime Minister Modi's message was straight. Foreign money can flow in, but the hard work must carry the mark of Indian hands and Indian soil.
आत्मनिर्भर भारत के अभियान को हम सब आगे बढ़ाएं, वोकल फॉर लोकल बने, स्वदेशी ये हमारा जीवन मंत्र बनना चाहिए दोस्तों.
The Prime Minister urged every citizen to buy products made in India, stating that the true value of Swadeshi lies not in where the money originates, but in whose labor actually shapes the product. Prime Minister Modi also set his appeal in the context of India's long-term vision that by 2047, on the centenary of independence, India must emerge as a developed nation, one based on Atmanirbhar Bharat, self-reliant India. And alongside this push, the government is accelerating reforms and taking new measures. The Modi government is also speeding up policy changes, such as the GST overhaul, and this is to shore up confidence and growth in the economy. All of this also begs the question, why exactly is Donald Trump imposing the tariffs? Because Trump seems to always work in a pattern. People who follow the story closely have seen that despite offering initial resistance, eventually world leaders do concede. Just take the example of NATO leaders in Europe, for example, conceding to Trump on how to go about as far as Ukraine is concerned. Despite voicing strong opposition, European leaders ended up having to ensure Ukraine's security guarantees, as well as providing Kiev with arms. NATO leaders also pledged to spend 5% of their GDP towards defense, because that's what Trump does. He gets his way. But regardless of Trump's method, or his pattern of getting the deal, by Trump's own admission, in fact, Prime Minister Modi is a tough negotiator, and Prime Minister Modi is not about to concede to Trump on compromise tariffs. In fact, India has drawn its red line. It is sticking to it. Trump's tariff war has created a sharp debate globally as well. Many see his measures not just as trade policy, but also as flattery and humiliation tax. But even if Trump boasts about tariffs, his own business history tells a different story. Trump once hailed his Taj Mahal casino in Atlantic City as the 8th wonder of the world. When it opened in 1990, it was his biggest and boldest real estate gamble. But by October 2016, the lights went out. The casino closed after 26 years, leaving thousands of employees without jobs. Perhaps underscoring a symbol of Trump's flawed vision of business and growth. Maybe understandable why Trump sees everything from the lens of having all the cards and the world seeming cardless in a way. Nevertheless, the message from New Delhi is loud and clear. Threats will not weaken India's resolve. The history of the largest democracy is well known for bringing down the mightiest empire of its time with a Swadeshi movement. A new layer of horror has been added to the conflict in Gaza. A deadly Israeli strike on a hospital sparked global outcry and ignited a major debate. And in the aftermath of the attack that killed 20 people, including 5 journalists, a big question hanging in the air. Was this a tragic accident or a precision strike? Take a look.
The moments after the strike, a blur of chaos and agony. The panicked faces of medics and civilians as they scrambled to pull the wounded from the wreckage. A pillar of smoke rose from the top of the Nasser hospital, a refuge now turned into a scene of unimaginable horror. Somber scenes at the funeral of journalists killed in the Israeli strikes, the mortal remains of the scribes with their camera and the press vest.
Continuous bombing and direct targeting of journalists. Every day we bid farewell to a martyred journalist, but we will continue on this path that we have chosen, and their message will not be stopped.
Experts are claiming this was no random hit. They believe the building was struck by a guided missile, likely a spike missile, an Israeli-made high-precision fire-and-forget anti-armor weapon used to target specific locations. The claim is bolstered by a tweet reportedly from an Israeli soldier who allegedly said that he and his team had smashed a building. It is also being called a double-tap strike, a tactic where a second strike follows the first one to hit first responders and those attempting to aid the wounded. This is a claim that is now at the heart of international outrage.
So 200 journalists have been killed since the beginning of the conflict, and about 40 of them have been targeted according to the information collected by RSF. Where is it going to end? Where do we put the limit? Why is the international community so absent?
Prime Minister Netanyahu says Israel regrets what he calls a tragic mishap. The Israeli Defense Forces say the hospital was hit by stray tank shells fired in the heat of battle and that they are launching a full investigation.
The Chief of the General Staff has instructed that an inquiry be conducted immediately to understand the circumstances of what happened and how it happened.
For Gaza, it's another tragedy in a string of horrors. About 62,800 Palestinians have been killed in the Israeli retaliatory offensive, which began after the October 2023 terror attack by Hamas. For the world, the question is simple. How many more must die before the line is drawn? Bureau Report, WION World is One.
To stay up to speed with the latest news, download the WION app and subscribe to our YouTube channel.